In most shonen stories, especially those set in the world of sports, we're used to seeing the heroes grow through teamwork, camaraderie, and of course, the famous power of friendship. It's a trope that feels almost inevitable. The underdog works with his friends, learns valuable lessons about trust, and eventually emerges victorious with the help of others. But what happens when a character rejects all of that? What if that character doesn't believe in friendship, teamwork, and all that other BS? Enter Baro Shoei. In Blue Lock, a series designed to shatter every expectation we have of sports anime, Baro stands out as the most radical rejection of shonen ideals. While most shonen characters spend their journeys striving to become the best, Baro steps onto the field already convinced that he's king. This belief is clear from his very first game in Blue Lock. After scoring a goal mere seconds into the match, Baro makes his proclamation that everyone else is nothing but amateurs, peasants no better than the ball he kicks. That he's the one true king of the pitch. Imagine you took the ego of Seto Kaiba and smashed it together with the soccer skills of Captain Tsubasa. That is Baro Shoei. Right from his introduction, we get a moment that differentiates Baro from other shonen characters. Compare him to someone like Hinata from Haikyuu, who starts off as an underdog working tirelessly to get better. As a shrimp who had nothing but his jumping abilities, Hinata knew he had a long way to go before he could reach the top. Then after joining Karasuno, he not only improves as a player, but he also acquires amazing teammates that he can trust and rely on. But for Baro, he doesn't need to rise nor work with others. He already sees himself at the top. His confidence doesn't come from a journey filled with setbacks and overcoming obstacles. He was just born different. While all the characters in Blue Lock see themselves as the protagonist of their own story, Baro takes this mindset to the extreme. He fully believes that he's the main character, that he's the only one that matters, while everyone else exists as extras to support his journey. But this inflated sense of self doesn't appear from nowhere. Since childhood, Baro has been praised as a soccer genius, constantly hearing how exceptional he is. He wondered how his teammates could have so much fun playing soccer, even though they were just supporting roles. It was mind-boggling to him that anyone could enjoy the sport when they're not the one scoring. But it was this type of praise that made Baro quickly give up on the idea of teamwork, as well as trying to understand others. It really reinforced the idea that he was special. Knowing nothing but success, Baro was content with taking on the role of hero and being the one to always lead his team to victory. Again, looking back at his first game in Blue Lock, it's not surprising that Baro has this mentality. When the match between Team X and Team Z begins, players from both teams came scrambling onto the field, selfishly trying to claim the ball. But when Baro takes control, scores effortlessly, and establishes himself as king of the team, the rest of Team X falls in line. Imagine being able to have 10 other egotistical strikers who are all trying to prove themselves immediately become your followers. It's no wonder he has a huge ego. He quickly establishes himself as the pillar in which the team will revolve their offense around. Of course, to Baro, he sees his teammates as nothing more than pawns who exist solely to help him score. Again, they're extras in his play where he's the main character. Now typically, when you see this type of character in shonen, a crushing defeat is usually enough to change the worldview and act as a catalyst for development. Think of someone like Aomine from Kuroko No Basketball. Like Baro, Aomine is an egotistical bastard who thinks he's better than everyone. However, his turning point came when he faced off against Serenhai in the Winter Cup. For the first time in a long time, Aomine is forced to try his best, and yet he ultimately loses to Kagami. This defeat shakes him to his core. It reignited his passion for basketball and forced him to realize that there are others out there who can match his level and that even he has room for improvement. Through this loss, Aomine begins to shed some of his arrogance and grow as a person. However, Baro's defeats in Blue Lock only seem to reinforce his ego, at least in the beginning. When Asagi meets him after they both lost during the second selection, Baro blames his loss on his teammates. Not for a second did he think the loss could have been because of him and his poor cooperation. Even when the winning team literally said that they passed up on picking on Baro because he was too selfish and brings too much disarray. To Baro, he only lost because the pieces around him didn't move as he pleased. Instead of using a loss as a moment of humility, Baro doubles down on his belief that he's king, refusing to change or compromise on his ideals. This defiance, even in the face of defeat, is what sets Baro apart from other shonen characters. But besides his refusal to change after a defeat, what really sets Baro apart from other shonen geniuses is that despite his immense talent, he's also an incredibly hard worker. Unlike a prodigy like Aomine or someone like Agon from Eyeshield 21, Baro doesn't let his god-given abilities be an excuse not to practice. Rather than laze around allowing his skills to decline, Baro is constantly improving himself in order to keep his kingly status. We see in his flashback as a child that he kept on training even after being praised. And when he's teamed up with Asagi, we see him go through a harsh and meticulous warm-up before he even starts practicing skills. This type of mindset is so drastically different from the typical genius archetype you would see in other shonen anime. While other geniuses coast on their natural abilities until they face a loss, Baro doesn't give his competition even an inch in defeating him. For Baro, working hard isn't a last resort. Is part of the reason why he believes that he'll always be king. Now I feel like this video wouldn't be complete if I don't talk about what is arguably Baro's most defining moment. And that's the crossroad he faces during the match where he plays alongside Nagi and Asagi against the team consisting of Reo, Kunigami, and Chigiri. Right from the start, Baro is immediately marked by Kunigami, and despite seeing himself as the superior player, Baro finds himself unable to score. Then when Baro refuses to pass to Asagi, Reo effortlessly steals the ball. This was just the beginning of Baro's humiliation. As the game progresses, Baro is repeatedly shut down. He misses his shots, the ball is stolen again, and his teammates Nagi and Asagi mock him, telling him not to hold them back. In the anime, they call him a donkey, but they are not as nice in the manga. Then to top off all of his humiliation, the moment came when Baro unconsciously passed the ball to Asagi, a shocking moment that completely shattered his self-perception. It's the moment that made Baro realize that he's no longer the main character. For the first time in his life, he's playing a supporting role, a mere extra in Asagi's story. To him, this was a feeling worse than defeat. All of this builds towards the pivotal moment of the match where Baro must make a decision. He can pass the ball to Asagi again and admit that his way of playing was wrong, or he can take matters into his own hands and try to score himself. In a more friendly and optimistic anime, this would be the moment where the cocky genius learns the value of teamwork and finally embraces the power of friendship. But that's where Blue Lock flips the script. Instead of accepting his role as an extra, Baro tells Asagi to piss off, choosing ego over teamwork. Faced with a crossroad that would change his whole life, rather than conforming, rather than being part of the reason why the goal was scored, Baro chose to be the whole reason why it was scored. I love the moment where Baro sees his whole life flash before his eyes and realize the mediocrity he would doom himself to if he chose to entrust his hopes to another person. To him, winning is not enough. It's more important that he wins in his own way. Throughout the whole series, I honestly believe that this moment is the best representation of what Blue Lock is all about. The idea that only those who embrace their selfish desires can truly stand above the rest. From this point onwards, we see Baro start to embrace his role as the villain of Blue Lock. He comes to the realization that if he can't be the hero of the story, then he would rather be the bad guy than be forced to leave center stage. Going forward, we see Baro become more ruthless as he tries to devour everyone else on the field. While most shonen characters are those who seek the light, Baro is someone who thrives in the darkness. As we see in his game at the end of Season 1, he hides and stalks, waiting to pounce on any opportunity to steal the ball from both enemies and teammates. Baro's journey in Blue Lock is the perfect subversion of the usual shonen tropes. While most characters in the genre grow by learning to trust others, Baro's growth comes from doubling down on his individualism. Baro doesn't need to be the hero. In fact, he takes pride in being the villain, knowing that in the end, all that matters is that he stands victorious. And that's what makes him one of the most compelling and unpredictable characters in the series. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.